Hi, welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, and I'm here today with Kim Lengling, who is an author and a podcast host. As an author, she is multi published and she shares her love of nature and animals, her life with PTSD, and her mission to toss out nuggets of hope through her writing and her podcast, Let Fear Bounce. Kim is the lead author and coordinator of 6 anthologies, with her newest, the Paw Prints series, Paw Prints on the Couch and Paw Prints on the Kitchen Floor, with a third, Paw Prints on the Porch, coming in August of 2025. Her newest book, Nuggets of Hope, was released in November of 2024. In addition to writing, she hosts the podcast Let Fear Bounce, in which she spotlights people who have faced and overcome personal fears to make a difference in their slice of the world through writing, coaching, film production, music, philanthropy, teaching, founding nonprofits, public speaking, or simply being an amazing human being. You can regularly find Kim drinking coffee, reading, and taking long walks with her dog, Dexter. Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you. I was been so excited to come back. It's been a while since we chatted
It has been. Well, it's been a while since we chatted here on this
on
show.
your show, right?
We
Right.
just recently chatted for your show, which is always so much fun. We always have such a great conversation. And I am so excited to have you back to share more stories of overcoming and more stories of hope. But you do have a book just recently out, November 2024. Can you tell us about that book and your inspiration behind it?
Wow, the inspiration actually started, and it's one of those things that God's led you to, but you're not quite aware of it yet.
Mhm.
Just one of those little nudges, and you're like, okay. So a couple years ago, the word hope started showing up everywhere. Reading it, hearing it, seeing it on billboards. And I'm going, why am I seeing the word hope everywhere? And then I'm thinking, what can I do with that? You know, and I wasn't really in a great spot mentally at that time. And, hope actually was ticking me off. you know, the word was everywhere. And I'm very honest. You know this by now.
Yeah, yeah.
The word was hope. It was everywhere. And I was like, it's just not landing on me. But why am I seeing it? And it was almost annoying, almost annoying. And then I'm thinking, well, what am I, is this God doing this? Is he telling me I'm supposed to be doing something? And it didn't go away for weeks. Everywhere I looked or listened or read, the word hope was. And I was like, okay, I think he's, he's not only nudging me now, he's like shoving me. Kim, listen to me. And so I thought, okay, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to give hope to people when I don't really feel it myself?
Mhm,
You know? And the answer in my head that was a very strong whisper was yes. Yes, you are, Kim.
mhm,
And so I thought, how in the world am I supposed to do this? And so I had remembered I had this little deck of cards someone gave me, or I got at a networking event years ago when I worked in the corporate world. And it was like this little 6 pack of business type cards, size cards. And they said, like, you're a rock star, you're awesome, those affirmation type cards.
mhm.
And it was just a little pack, I think of 6 or 8 maybe. So I thought, well, I will put those in my pocket or in my purse and carry them with me and see what I'm inspired to do. And so the next time I was at grocery shopping, the thought came to me, tuck those throughout the store, and whoever finds them is going to find them. And I was like, that'll be a little nugget of hope. And that's where I'm going to drop this little nugget here and this. So I did that just throughout the store. I put it in, like pockets of jeans. I put it in with the motor oil. I put it in with some cookies, wherever I felt like putting them in. And then it just kind of went from there because I thought, I felt kind of good doing that. Now, it wasn't like pat myself in the back, good job, Kim. It was more like, oh, okay, that was kind of nice because someone's going to find that and maybe they're having a poopy day and they see a little card that says you're a rock star. And if anything, it'll at least make them smile. And to me, that's a nugget of hope. So I was like, oh, okay. But the word didn't go away. It just kept coming and coming. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? So I didn't have any more cards and really didn't have the money to go have a bunch of them made. And then I was like, what about actual nuggets? I have one actually. Like, what about actual nuggets of hope? And I looked online and found some. And they actually are polished stones with the word hope on them. So I got some and they weren't cheap. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm supposed to be doing this. So I started carrying these around with me, just a couple. And as soon as I started carrying them, I'd be out running errands, post office, grocery store, wherever, and I would feel strong nudge. I would be drawn towards a person, a stranger. And as soon as I would, be drawn to that person, it would, in my head, it'd be like, that person needs your nugget of hope today. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to approach a total stranger. This is not comfortable. And then I remembered we're not always supposed to be comfortable when God asked us to do something. I'm like, oh, okay, Kim, pull up your big girl panties and let's do this. So the very first time I did this, it was an older woman. And I approached her and just said, excuse me, ma'am, I would like to give you a nugget of hope. And I held out my hand and she held out hers. I'm a total stranger. She held out hers. She looked at me like, oh, like, what? She held out her hand and I just gently put it in her hand. And I said, I just want to give you this nugget of hope today. And I hope you have a blessed day. And I turned to walk away because I very strongly feel I'm not supposed to chit chat, not supposed to get their name, and I'm not supposed to get their story. I'm just supposed to give them this. And so as I was walking away, I heard her say, oh my goodness, you have no idea. And I just glanced back and smiled, and she was just sitting there holding it. Then I was like, oh, now I get it. I'm getting all teared up. It's like, now I get it. And there was another woman, and I've done this for a couple years now. So that's kind of how the book came about, because I would come home and write those stories down, because I've been yelled at, I've been sworn at, I've been hugged, I've had people start crying, I've had people laugh, nervously. I've had people look at me like, who are you, crazy woman? Stuff like all kinds of reactions. And I would come home and write those down and just kept them. And then the word kindness started showing up. Hope and kindness, hope and kindness. I'm like, yeah, they go together. They should anyway, if they don't. And then I'm like, why aren't people more kind? It's not a big question, but for me, whatever reason, it hit me hard because I'm thinking, I'm out here trying to toss out little nuggets of hope. I apologize. Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
That's my blood glucose alarm going on. Well, my sugar's tanking, everyone. So I might have to eat candy while we're talking. But so that's how the book came about. I started keeping those stories and then started thinking about kindness. And I was like looking into kindness, like the actual definition in Webster's dictionary and things like that. And looking into, there are so many ways to be kind each and every day, and it doesn't cost a dime to be kind. And being kind can change someone's day. It might not, you might just change that person's moment. Maybe it's that hour, maybe it's that day. Maybe your kindness might stop that person from doing self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what your smile can do to a stranger on the street. So I'm like, people ask me all the time, well, what do you mean toss out nuggets of hope and share kindness? What, I don't know what to do. I don't want to walk around handing out stones. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. All you have to do is smile. Compliment a stranger. That is one of my favorite things to do. And I tell that to everybody. Compliment a stranger. I saw an older woman. We were passing each other, and I went, "Oh my goodness, ma'am!" And she stopped and turned and looked at me. I said, "That coat is fabulous." And I put drama into it because she was rocking it. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, thank you." And she just got all kerflustered and this huge smile. And I'm thinking, I got to do that more. So compliment a stranger. With sincerity, get out there and do it with your heart and with sincerity. But, I try and do that. If I see someone, it doesn't matter if they're older, younger, a toddler, it doesn't matter. Compliment them, because you just don't know where people are sitting at. Everybody's life, everyone has something going on. Everyone, every single one of us. I got stuff going on in my life right now,
Mm-hmm.
but we all put a mask on. And sometimes, you might still wear that mask during the day, but sometimes it's pretty nice to be seen, to be actually seen by someone. So I'm like, acknowledge the person in front of you. Let them know that they're seen, that they're actually seen. Yeah, that was a rambling answer to your question.
No, I love it because it's so practical and so doable. And if what I hear It sounds like when God started to give this to you, and it started out real small, just like hope here, hope there, and it actually, you found it annoying because it was so not where you were at the time. Um, but yet he had you lean into that for other people. And in that, it sounds like you had healing and you had victory in your life as
Yes.
you leaned into releasing that to other people, which I think is so key and a key strategy that we overlook so many times because we say, well, I haven't had victory for myself in this area. Okay. But Abraham was told to pray for Abimelech's household full of children for the healing for their women to have more children before he and Sarah received the promise that they were contending for decades. And God heard Abraham's prayer and healed Abimelech, and Abraham and Sarah still did not have a child. Not one between the two of them, not counting Ishmael. So, but my point is, like, God will have us do that. He'll have us lean into that area where we haven't had victory or we haven't had our promise fulfilled. Maybe we've even had a word from God that there's going to be this breakthrough and we haven't had it yet. And then he says, you know what? Let's have you lean into releasing that into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
That can be so hard. That's
Oh,
hard.
indeed. Yes. Because, well, I fought it. I told you I was annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're in that headspace and, you know, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. I know he's always with me. I'm not always with him,
Mhm.
and I know that I was a spot where I hadn't walked away, but I think I might have turned my head away for a while,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't
Right.
want to feel it. I was, just in a crappy spot, and we all have those days. I mean, we're human. Life, it's life. We're
It's
all going
life.
to have really tough stuff happen, and sometimes the tough things hang around with you for
Mhm.
decades. You know,
Yeah.
and hopefully you get the help that you need, and you build up your tool. I call it my little toolbox. Build up my little toolbox so I can, when I have those kind of days, I can dig in there and say, all right, this is what I got to do. Kim, let's go. Because some days, and I mean, this is just me, my own story, living with PTSD. There are some days, depending upon what else is going on, that might be, and I call it the D-man tossing his little poison darts. Could be
Yeah.
coming from the news or coming from something I hear on the radio or something that I pick up and read in a magazine, whatever. There's little poison darts. It's just negative, negative, negative.
Yeah.
And you have all of that and you're just like, oh, and you start to feel that way yourself. Sometimes it's not easy to crawl out of that. You just kind of sink into it. And you're like, yeah, life sucks. Yeah, the world is horrible. Yeah, humans are horrible. And you just keep that, thing going in your head. This is me now. And I've learned over the years to recognize that that's not me. That's not how I'm made. That's not how I normally think. And I realize that that's the D-man coming in. And I'll be like, oh my goodness, Kim, you just opened up the back door and said, come on in today and ruin the day. You know, and thankfully I've learned to recognize that. And for me, I have to say it out loud. You are not welcome here. I'm covered by Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus is here with me, and he has got me surrounded by his army of angels. You're not welcome here, D-man. So, I'm sweeping you on out the back door. And I have to say stuff like that out loud because
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I say it out loud, it gives it power.
Yep.
And then I can actually feel that darkness lifting.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's key too. Like tuning into those thoughts. Where are my thoughts aligning with? Are they aligning with fear? Are they aligning with despair? Are they aligning with mm, more of a D-man view of humanity that is just lacks hope and
Yeah.
lacks love? Um, and then keying into that, and I'll do the same thing. I'll speak it out loud, like, I rebuke you, that thought, I rebuke you. And then I'll start, I'll find scripture, I'll start praising God, something aligned with the Holy Spirit, and it breaks. It's so powerful, it's so true. But we have to kind of key into that, because otherwise, you're right. It's easy to just align with that and then fall, sink,
Yeah. Yeah.
sink down into offense, hurt, despair, lack of hope. But
And you feel like you're sinking in, like, deep mud.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how I picture it in my head. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm ankle deep in this mud right now." And you know how hard that is to walk through mud
yep,
it's just ankle deep? That's hard. And it takes a lot of effort, and so
yeah,
I'll get that picture in my head. I'm like, "Oh, I'm slogging through it again. What am I doing? I'm letting myself in this." And yeah, sometimes it's not, and it's, none of this is easy, folks. Someone out there watching or listening right now might be in that spot.
yeah.
And I know, and it's not easy to pull yourself out of that. But here's something that someone told me years ago. I was at my darkest. This was years ago. And I worked outside the home at the time. And there was an underground garage in the building. And I went down there because I couldn't maintain the day. I knew I was going to start crying like uncontrollable. I could not maintain. And so I went down into the garage and I'm sitting down on the curb in the garage down there. And it's dark, underground garage. And I'm just sitting there just sobbing. And then an older gentleman came and sat beside me. He worked in the same building I did. And he sits down. He's a Vietnam vet. I'll never forget this. And he said, "Looks to me, kid, like you are sitting at the bottom of the barrel right now." And I just turned and looked at him. He goes, "I don't need to know your story, but it looks to me like you're sitting at the bottom of the barrel." He goes, "I just want to tell you something. You're holding on he goes, "Let me ask you something. You're holding on by your fingertips." And I just kind of nodded because I was literally sobbing. And I just nodded like, "Yeah, I'm just barely hanging on to my fingertips." That kind where you're holding on and your fingers start to hurt and you're going to let go because it's too hard to hold on. That's where
Mhm.
I felt like. And he said, "So you're holding on by your fingertips." He goes, "Look up. Quit looking down. Look up because that's where the light is. You're not going to fall in the bottom of that barrel. I'm sitting here beside you. I'm not going to let you fall to the bottom of that barrel. But quit looking down, hanging on and looking down. Hang on and look up because that's where the light is." Never forgotten that. Never forgotten that. And it was weeks later that, because he hadn't been at work and I was, asking about him. And at that time in his life, he was, uh, his wife was dying of brain cancer. And he took the time, not having a clue what was going in my life, to give me that nugget of hope. And it almost makes, God, I'm crying all the time this morning. Um, it was so powerful. And at that time, I was also at a time in my life at that time where I was not a Christian and I didn't like God. As a matter of fact, I hated him. And then I was like, I always said I didn't believe in God. But then, later I'm like, how could I have hated something I didn't believe in? It's not
Mhm.
possible.
Right.
If it doesn't exist, how can you hate something that doesn't exist? So, story for another day. But I've never forgotten that. And looking back now, I know that God put him right there in that exact moment. And I often think that was a little nugget of hope that started me. There's the mustard seed,
Mhm.
you know, that started me looking elsewhere, looking up and not down into the dark bottom of the barrel, but looking up and realizing there is light. Okay, this is going to be hard. And it is. And it hurts sometimes. Facing the light, facing hope when you're in such a dark spot sometimes does hurt. But you know what? Golly, you come out the other side, you're so strong. You know,
Absolutely.
I look at people that have been through so much, and I'm just like, you are awesome.
Yeah.
Look how strong you are. What a warrior you are. And that's another nugget of hope. Let people know that we're all strong. We all have strength in us. And some people have really awful, awful, awful life circumstances. I mean, look, you just turn on the news. and you'll see what people are going through and what they're crucified for. You know, you can't let yourself let yourself be sucked into all of the negative, because I was asked one time, oh gosh, you're trying to be so good. What do you think you can do? You think you can change the world? And it was said in a nasty tone. And I never understood that. I was like, well, that person needs to look in the mirror. I kind of got angry. But then I'm thinking, my answer was, what do you mean? I'm not out here trying to be a goody good person. And no, I can't change the world, but I can change my small slice of the world,
Mhm.
one little nugget of hope at a time.
Yep.
And can you imagine if we all did that in our own little slices? If everybody
Yep.
on this planet tried to change for good their
Yep.
small slice of the world, whether it was just within their family or with their neighbor or whatever, and then that person in turn does it, does the whole pay it forward thing, what a different world it would be.
Yes.
And why wouldn't we want that? So start where you're at.
Yep. So powerful. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate things and we think like, well, I don't have a huge platform. Well,
I don't
you
either.
right. But the point is, like, if we each do our job to bring hope and kindness through simple everyday things like smiling. It doesn't cost anything to smile. And if you don't feel like it, there is a thing where if you make the facial expression and the body posture, your body will send those chemicals that align with that emotion, and you can kind of get your way over there. You
Yes,
can
and
be
that's a fact.
thankful.
That
And
is
that
a
is a
fact.
fact.
Yes.
That is a fact. Scientists have studied that over and over and over again. It is a fact. So try it. Try,
Right.
just putting that smile on and start to align those thoughts with just anything that you're thankful for. Today, we're in a huge windstorm, and I am so thankful our trash day was moved to Wednesday from Monday. So I don't have to chase my trash cans all over the neighborhood. Maybe it's something little and silly and for today, but I'm thankful.
And
So
there's always something to be thankful for. And I don't do it all the time. And I really do try every morning. I try it to think of, and it's not hard, folks, 3 things that you're
yeah,
grateful or thankful
mhm,
for. And
yeah,
a lot of times, one of my 3 things is, I am so thankful for this first cup of coffee. You
there's
know,
always that.
yeah, there's always that. So
Coffee.
that's one. But then I'm like, I am so thankful that my dog is healthy. I'm so thankful that I'm able to take a daily hour-long walk with my dog. Or I am thankful that I have a roof over my head during the big old snowstorm that we're having today. You know,
Yeah.
there's it doesn't have to be something big. Be thankful that you're able to provide for your family.
Mhm,
And maybe it's been rough. Be thankful that, I'm thankful I have groceries this month.
mhm,
You know,
mhm.
at whatever spot you're in, there's always something to be thankful for. Be thankful for the sun that rose, or good gosh, you woke up.
Yep.
You woke up.
Yeah.
Be thankful for that, because a lot of people don't
Yeah.
wake
I
up,
think
you know?
sometimes we get our brain so much in a rut of complaining and we find endless complaints. Um,
Yes. It's
there are,
exhausting.
it is exhausting. It's life sapping and gets you so grumpy. Like life's
Yes,
too
it
short to be grumpy like that. And it really decreases resilience. If you're looking to be the kind of person that can bounce back up after you're kind of knocked down a little bit, start practicing daily gratitude. I know it sounds so simple and trite and trivial, but it is so powerful. It is free. It is doable. You have to get your headspace over out of complaining into thankfulness. It is life changing and powerful. Sometimes I
Yes.
think we overcomplicate things and we really have to step back to the simple. Where am I at today? What can I do today to spread hope to somebody else, even if I'm not feeling it myself? How can I be an agent of kindness? Maybe I just hold the door for somebody.
Right.
One thing that our pastor said yesterday, don't ask somebody if you can help them. She said, that's a yes or no question. How can I help you?
Yes.
And she said, you'd be surprised. the difference in response. Because people, if you ask them yes, no, they'll always say no. Say how?
Shoot off a text to someone.
Yeah, shoot a text to
Just saying,
somebody.
hey, good morning. Or maybe it's just a silly meme, something that you know that it's gonna make them smile or laugh.
Yeah.
Just send it to them. He's retired now, but my pastor's wife, she regularly does that. I'll just get a message, seemingly random. And it
Yeah.
might be a picture of flowers. And she'll be like, here's a beautiful bouquet of flowers for you today. I hope your day is blessed. And it's just, and it always comes. And I've told her this because she's done this for years. It always comes on a day when I'm just not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will receive that from her.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking every time, it's without fail. And she's been doing it for years. So do something like that, or send an actual card with a handwritten note in the mail to someone.
Mm-hmm.
That is so special nowadays. I mean, I grew up with snail mail, so
Yeah.
I actually miss that, getting letters and cards and stuff in the mail, because it's exciting because someone is taking the time
Mm-hmm.
out of their day to write you a note, put a stamp on it, put it in the mailbox. I mean, that takes someone's time because they're thinking of you. Do that. I think we should get back to that more often, actually. Now, are stamps getting expensive? Yes, I know they are. But I'm not saying send out 100 cards a day, because that would be too expensive for anybody. But, just every once in a while, I have such a stash of cards. My aunt, I don't know if you have anybody in your life or anybody out there listening has people, and they're older folks. They may have donated somewhere, so they get cards in the mail all the time, like blank note cards.
Yeah.
My aunt gets hundreds of them, and I'm like, don't throw them out. So she gives them to me. I literally I mean, it's huge.
Wow.
So I have all kinds of blank note cards, and some of them are absolutely beautiful, and I will randomly get those out and just write it out and say, hey, just thinking of you today, have an awesome week, and just toss it in the mail.
Yeah. It
How
does
hard is
make a
that?
difference. Yeah, I have somebody in my life that once in a while will just randomly send a card thinking of you, or you get that random text message and it's random, but it's the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
because it's that day or like in that moment when you just got like a, are you what? And
Yeah.
then you get that text, hey, thinking about you, how can I pray for you today? I'm praying for you today. God, the Holy Spirit put you on my heart. And you're like, God, you do see, you do know. And
Yep.
you don't always have to share your story or what's going on, but God sees, God knows. And it's amazing. And I know there's a generational thing with snail mail. I'm of a snail mail era too. but
I
but
think we
my
should do
kids,
it. I think we
but my
should start it up again.
yeah. But my kids, they do love getting cards. I mean, once in a while they'll get something in the snail mail. And it just lights up their day, and they get so excited about getting the snail mail too.
Think
So the younger
about
generation, they
here's
do
a
like
thought that just popped in my head. Think about all the folks that are in nursing homes.
it. Hmm.
Why why wouldn't you just want to write up 20 to 30 cards and even drop them off and say, "Can you just please give these to the residents?"
Hmm.
Just wishing them a beautiful day or whatever. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to be a nugget of hope
Yeah.
for someone and to spread kindness, because there's an awful lot of very lonely people out there.
Yes.
A lot of lonely, hurting people out there. And it might be the person sitting next to you in church every Sunday.
Hmm.
You don't know what people on the left and the right in front of you and behind you are going through.
Yep.
You have no idea. It could be complete and utter turmoil, but there they are trying to get their nugget of hope on a Sunday morning. But what happens the rest of the week?
Right.
Sometimes that's all they get is that 1 hour on a Sunday morning. What happens the rest of the week? So, I mean, there's so much we could do. And I'm not saying give of yourself where you have nothing left for your own self. What I'm saying is find something that you're comfortable with and you know that God is kind of nudging you to do, and just do it. And
Hmm.
like we've both said, it doesn't cost anything to be kind.
Right. Yep. Doesn't cost anything to smile. It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
No.
And the studies have even shown on kindness that even if you observe an act of kindness, it
Yes.
sends those chemicals in your brain that are positive, and that person is more likely to go and be kind to somebody else.
Yep.
So kindness is like a powerhouse that has a ripple effect in society. So even if that person that you were kind to, like you said, they'll swear at you, they'll do this, that, but maybe somebody else was observing
Right.
and they're like, wow, yeah, I could do that. That's simple. I could be kind. And you don't even know, maybe that was a little mustard seed that was planted that will grow over time.
Right.
And Holy Spirit can use that in their life.
Well, it was like that gentleman I told you about. I mean, this was decades ago that I was sitting down in that garage, that basement garage at work.
Hmm.
And that's still with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that he was a mustard seed. I'm positive of it. And I just, I am so in awe all the time, in awe, since I became a Christian. And I call myself a late bloomer. I was in my mid 30s, and now I'm in my mid 50s. So I still consider myself a late bloomer. But those little seeds and those people that are placed in our path, now that I recognize them for what they are, I'm in awe all the time,
Mhm.
going, God, you are so cool. That was so cool what you just did.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I don't know where, I don't think it's in the Bible, but you've seen it and you've heard it like in songs and you've read it in different devotions and stuff, that God places, you never know. It is in the Bible. You never know who might be an angel
Hmm.
or who
Yeah.
you're inviting into your home.
Yep.
I know I'm messing up. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But
Entertaining angels, always be hospitable, always be kind. Don't.
yes, because
Yeah.
you might be entertaining an angel. How cool. Oh, do we have time for another story?
Yes. Yeah. Go for it. I'm
Speaking
gonna
of,
put your website up as you tell us
okay.
the story.
Speaking of God placing angels, my grandmother had passed away like 22 years ago now. And it hit me really, really hard that first year that she was gone, because I was really close to her. And it hit me so hard. And every time I would visit her grave, and I did every Sunday after church, I would visit her grave. And I would just cry and cry and cry. Like, Grandma, I miss you so much. And the one Sunday I went, it was a beautiful summer morning, late morning. I mean, just gorgeous flowers on the graves. And I actually like cemeteries. I find them very, very peaceful. And so I'm wiping her headstone down and, weeding around the flowers and stuff. And I'm just sobbing the whole time. But when I had pulled in, there was no one there. And you have to drive down to get to where I was at. So you would hear another car coming in. But there was no one there. And I was kind of thankful. I'm like, good, no one's here. And I'm, weeding her headstone and, just wiping everything down, making it nice and shiny and pretty. And I get back in my car and I have my door open. I'm just kind of sitting sideways with my legs hanging out, just sitting there, just talking to my gram, you know. And then I look in my rearview mirror, because I'm sitting with my car door open. In my rearview mirror, there's a woman walking towards my car. And I'm like, there's no one. And I'm way down in there. There was no one in the cemetery, no one anywhere. And she just, it was, the hair on my arm stood up, because it was like she just appeared. And she said, "Are you okay, sweetie?" And I said, "Yeah, I just missed my grandma." And she goes, "Oh, honey, she knows. And God knows too." And I went, "Okay." Because I was like, "Who are you? Where did
Yeah.
you come from?"
Yeah.
But her demeanor, and she had like the most beautiful white hair and the most piercing blue eyes. And her demeanor and the way she spoke was just so soft and gentle. And you could feel it.
Hmm.
And she said, "You're always going to miss your grandma. And, God knows that. But he's also going to give you those times to remember, so you're not sad so much like you are now. That will ease in time." And she was just, and some of it, I don't even remember what she said because I started crying again and I put my head on my steering wheel. So I like was turning like this. And then the next, I lift up my head and I went to say something like, yeah, but, and I looked around and she was gone. And I got out of my car and I'm looking around and there was no one in that cemetery. No one in that cemetery. And I just went, oh, what?
Yeah.
So that is another thing that's never left me because there was no one in that cemetery. And I'm going, did I just imagine that? That was weird because that was an actual conversation. Um, but I felt better. That feeling of peace did not leave me. And by the time I was halfway home, because I was like 20-minute drive home, by the time I'm like halfway home, I found myself smiling and laughing at things my grandma used to say to me or things we used to do. And by the time I got home, I wasn't sad because I was missing her. I was really happy because I was blessed to have had her in my life.
Yeah.
And that was powerful. So I've always firmly believed, and I don't know how it works or what other people believe, but I firmly believe that that was an angel sent to me just for that moment in time
Mhm.
to ease my sorrow. It
Amazing.
was just so cool.
And to me, like, that's how much God loves us. That's how much He loves
I
us.
mean, we should be in awe every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, like with childlike wonder in awe,
Yeah.
you know? And there are times I am because I'll be like, oh my goodness, wow, that was so cool. And I am a demonstrative person. you
Yeah. Yeah.
know, I'm not one of those quiet ones that just say, oh, thank you. Thank you for the blessing. I'm like, no, that was awesome.
Yeah. 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 That is amazing. So check out KimLangleyAuthor.com. Check out her books. Check out her podcast, Let Fear Bounce. Thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to DeborahHenne.com. Follow me on social on the X, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.